Hey there, everybody. Thomas Wood with Basecamp Trading. It is Monday, January 9th, and we're going to take a look at Crude, and more specifically this down move that we've had happen here in Crude over the past day or so. So from overnight session and into today. Now, if you watch the members video, if you remember at Basecamp Trading, we talked about this setup on Friday's end of day setups video, saying watch for the trend line to be broken, and if we break the trend line, for an acceleration to the downside. Well, obviously we broke the trend line, and obviously we've accelerated lower. So what's the next step here? What's the next step for Crude? Well, the next thing we want to pay attention to is 5208 support from this pivot low down here, this pivot low here, and this pivot low here. So we're very close to that 52 area support. Once we get through 52, then we're looking at coming all the way back down to 51 at least. And then once we get through 51 and down through 50, we're potentially breaking out of this range we've been in for the past several weeks and heading back down to about 45. All right, but in the meantime, we have a bearish to neutral outlook. And why do I say bearish to neutral? Well, it's bearish because momentum is down and short-term trend is reversing back to bearish, obviously, and neutral because we're on top of support. So we have that bearish outlook, but a couple things have to happen for it to go back to being full on bearish. All right, so be keeping an eye on this over the next day or so. See if we can get through that 52 support level and then down through 51 and ultimately through 50 and down to 45. All right, now the interesting thing about this trend line break, and the reason this is good, is because this is what we call a micro trend. This is one of my favorite setups, and what we do is we look for the initial move. So the initial direction was down, right, from this huge $3 down day we had last week. Then we ended up putting in higher lows and higher highs within the context of the overall down moving market. You draw a trend line connecting those pivot lows. The more pivot lows you can connect, the stronger the trend line and the faster the reaction we expect when it breaks. Well, we had 3 pivot lows that were really well defined that we could connect right to the tick, and then we ended up breaking that, and you got that really nice reaction. Now, when we broke, look at what the momentum was doing at the time. You see how bearish the momentum was down here. On the MQ momentum, we had a nice inflection on the histograms. Indicator line was putting in lower highs and breaking to lower lows. So all things lining up, ended up making this a really good short opportunity. So keep an eye on this type of setup. When you have a well-defined trend line, look where the initial move was. Where's the market heading initially? And also look for the momentum when it breaks. Is momentum in agreement? If momentum is in agreement, then it's a much higher quality setup. All right, that's all I have for you for today. Have a great afternoon. I'll see you in the trading room bright and early tomorrow morning. And until next time, happy trading.